J.D. Lewis Warrior acoustic guitar headstock with traditional shellac finishing techniques. This Warrior has a few issues with its original lacquer coating. Some of them are due to the recipe, some due to the application, and of course some due to the environmental situation that it's gone through. But as you can see here on the headstock, the traditional lacquer that was done at the factory bubbled around each tuner bushing, cracked away and flaked off. We'll be removing that finish and working on layering some nice traditional shellac for a seamless, super depth of clarity. As you can see there, turned out brilliant. The neck has a Purple Heart center strip, and the body and sides were made with Brazilian rosewood, which is very susceptible to cracking. There's a crack down on the lower base side of the back that I'll be gluing and patching with a veneer on the inside. We'll also be dropping in some fillers and lacquers into these cracks to try to achieve a brand new sort of look to it. But let's start by investigating what went wrong with this lacquer finish that they used. It seems to me they put too much plasticizer into the recipe, which is a chemical called dibutyl phthalate. If you don't put any in, it can crack and check prematurely, but if you put too much in, it'll stay a little too rubbery, and in this case, I think they applied the finish too thick on the soundboard. They did a good job around the back and sides, and then on the neck it's an entirely different situation. It's more of a thin satin. So first thing I'm going to do is drop in acetone into these cracks to see if I can kind of make them go away. I'll also, after the acetone, mix up a little bit of lacquer retarder with diluted lacquer and lacquer thinner and drop it in and kind of chase behind the acetone. The acetone evaporates off quicker than the lacquer retarder, so I just wanted to get a feel for whether or not this is going to work. You never know if it's going to truly work until you try it. So I'll go over the area with these chemicals and just keep my fingers crossed. What does it take to honor a master luthier's original intent while fixing an unsightful failure? We're blending historical finishes with modern precision to restore this Warrior guitar using traditional shellac layering on the headstock. Experience the patient, rhythmic process of building a flawless finish that is as strong as it is beautiful. In the next segments, I'll be getting to that headstock. We're going to go over this entire soundboard on these deep, ugly cracks. See if we can get them to re-amalgamate with these solvents. So far, so good. They seem to be disappearing right before our eyes. This works particularly good on really old, vintage, dried out instruments that have kind of crystalline lacquer situation where it's not still very flexible. You know, it's got that webbing of that patina of a cracked old coffee mug, you know. This top's a different situation. It's just like a few random giant scratches like a cat ran across it. Not a good look, but you know what? This is what lacquer does sometimes when it's sprayed on too thick. So it's not surprising to see lacquer checking over time. They call it cold weather checking, and it happens when you get a guitar that's experienced below 0 temperatures, and then it's raised back up to room temperature. Just take care of your expensive guitars. Please don't take them out in the cold. Well, let's let that cure for a while, and we'll come back and see how it stands up. I can still see them, although I think we've made some progress already. Now let's move on to the headstock. I'll try my random orbit sander with some 80 grit sandpaper discs. Sometimes that works good on dried out lacquer, but this stuff's got a lot of rubberiness to it. So I'll try some scraping. Scraping leaves less dust around the shop too. So scraping's become my more preferred method for removing lacquer. It's just a shame that every week I seem to be doing the same thing. Mopping up messes. Well, one thing I'd like to pass on to you is to clean your sandpaper regularly. If there's a little bit of material built up around the sandpaper, it's called a corn. And if you keep sanding with one of those corns on the pad or the disc, you'll end up with a really deep, ugly, swirly gouge in your work. Especially if you're working on prized guitars that are worth thousands of dollars, you'll want to make sure to clean your sandpaper often. Use fresh paper. Okay, I'm getting down to bare wood now. You can see the brown sawdust. We don't want to sand too much at this point because we've got some perloid inlays that we could sand through if we're not careful. Now we'll use some shellac flakes mixed with denatured alcohol to come up with a new finish. There was a test piece there I was showing you. I was spraying a little shellac on it over the course of the last month or two, and I'm going to try some things with that. I'm hoping to come up with some really good results. So I usually measure out a bit of these fresh shellac flakes, and then I multiply by 5 and add the denatured alcohol to the vessel until I get to that mark. 5 times the weight of the shellac. That leaves me with a 2-pound cut. There are a couple pieces of Brazilian rosewood bridge blanks laying down there on the table. StuMac's selling those now, $65 each. There's my denatured alcohol mix. It takes about 45-50 minutes to dissolve completely. This is my new supply right here from the Weller Mart, Idaho. I get it on eBay. Good quality. Dries fast. Let's wipe it down with naphtha to see what our final product's going to look like. That gives us an idea what we're going to be looking at anyhow. It's a nice color. I still had a little left to sand, so I'm using my half hockey puck. I cut the hockey puck in half in height and in length and used the smoothed edge for a sanding disc pad. It really works well. It's easy to grab onto. It's got good traction with the glove and the hockey puck rubber. Perfect sanding stick. This is going to look very nice. Warrior guitars are made in Rossville, Georgia. They started making them in 1995. Mostly those Tobias bass style guitars and electric guitars. This is the only acoustic guitar I've ever seen made by Warrior, which makes me wonder if they imported it from a supplier overseas. And maybe they finished it before the wood was cured completely. Maybe the moisture content was a little wrong before they built this guitar. I don't know. Something went wrong. I'll start wiping on this shellac with a mixture of mineral oil on a muslin pad. I have gauze wrapped into that pad. It's nice and wet. I put a little tape over the fretboard so I didn't slop any shellac onto the fretboard and have to clean it up later. Well, we're just a day into the application of the fresh finish and it's already looking pretty spiffy. After it cures for a few days, I like to sand it with like 1200 through 1500 grit super Oslick sandpaper, the Eagle abrasive stuff from Japan. And then I hit it with a few automotive compounds and a little bit of wax. And you couldn't ask for a more beautiful and easy finish than French polished shellac. Sometimes if it doesn't look as good as I want it to, I'll go over it with 3000 grit Trizact and mineral spirits. You don't want to wet sand over shellac because denatured alcohol based evaporative finishes don't like to have water or be mixed with water, especially around those tuning bushing holes. Well, the back crack's been glued up and I've dropped in a little bit of Glue Boost fill and finish. I'll scrape that back with a razor blade, sand it and polish it and see if we need to do anything else. It depends on how it looks when it's finished. But this shellac, this is where I started getting the hint that they put too much of that dibutyl phthalate in to the mix. That's their plasticizer. It's like putting rubber into the lacquer. It's great because it prevents checking. But on the other hand, if you get a crack, it'll lift on the edges and cause like a white, you see that white line? That's from that lacquer. Now, it's been a week. I'm going to flip the guitar over and sand and polish the soundboard from where we drop filled all those cracks with the lacquer and lacquer retarder mix. I'll do 600 grit through 1500 grit Bufflex sandpaper, and then I'll take it down to the buffing machine. I've got a coarse wheel and a fine wheel. The coarse compound is the red stuff, and the fine compound is the white stuff. Kind of saves on the tennis elbow when you got you one of these shop buffers. I need all the help I can get at my age. Hopefully we'll get this baby looking nice and shiny. Warrior Company has been doing some interesting stuff lately. I noticed they are making these Fordite guitars. Electric guitars made of Fordite paint. Fordite was when Ford Motor Company ran this paint shop, the paint would build up over the years on the tracks where they rolled the guitars through the line. And they decided one day to chip that stuff off, and artists started making jewelry out of it and stuff. But Warrior's been making pick guards and putting it on headstocks and even whole guitar bodies. Strat style guitars, Telecaster style. Interesting stuff. Look up Fordite guitar on YouTube and look for the Warrior Guitar Company Fordite guitars. Interesting stuff. I'm going to go over the whole back and front after buffing it on the wheel. I like to buff it indoors with a automotive compound, it gets me that mirror-like finish that I want to present to my customer when it's ready. First I use Meguiar's 105 Ultra Cut compound, and then I use Meguiar's cleaner wax. 2 different pads, same machine. And we get a beautiful, beautiful finish on that lacquer. Brazilian rosewood. Okay guys, we're crossing third base. I love making my way to home plate on a guitar restoration like this. 1, I get paid, and 2, I get to make a YouTube video for you guys. But 3, on this one, extra bonus, I get to hear the guitar. I haven't heard it yet. He brought it to me with no strings, and I got started right away. I didn't string it up. I'm pleasantly surprised at how this guitar sounds. Interesting design with the pins, the bridge pins being at an angle that way. I'm going to go with these D'Addario EJ16. Those are 12 through 53 phosphor bronze alloy strings. That's about the most common string I use in the shop. That's why I buy them by the 10-pack. I'll use a little bit of Tight Bond Original wood glue for the nut. Always glue in the nut. It's easy to get out with this Tight Bond Original. It doesn't usually put up much of a fight if it needs to come off for fret, maintenance, or in this case, headstock restoration. Well, I'm ready to give this guitar a nice demo. Let's give her a listen. I'm pleasantly surprised that the pickup system sounds this good, even through this electric amp. Thanks for joining me today, guys. I hope to see you next time. Catch you later.